is Margaret Yallop, and I'm the sister of Corporal Michael Boddy of the Royal Anglian Regiment, and he was killed in Northern Ireland on August the 17th, 1972 in Belfast. It was the evening of the 17th when I saw the news on BBC One late night at 11 o'clock at night that a soldier had been killed in Northern Ireland, and I knew straight away that it was my brother. I felt a big bump on my heart and I knew it was him. And when I got home, my husband told me that nobody had been to tell me, and so I decided to leave it alone, went to bed, went to sleep, and in the morning I got up and I thought I would write him a letter and give him our family news like we usually do. And while I was writing the letter, my 14-year-old sister came and told me that he'd been killed the day before, and it just broke my heart. I didn't know what to do. I sobbed and sobbed, and she fetched a neighbour for me, and then they phoned Perkins where my husband worked and got him home for me, and then we went off to Leicester to let my sister know in Leicester, and I just cried all the time. I couldn't stop crying, just couldn't. It just broke my heart. The night before Michael left for Northern Ireland, he came to see me early in the hours of the morning and to tell me that he was on his way to Northern Ireland, and he said to me that I wasn't to worry too much, but he didn't feel that he was going to get off so easy as he did at his earlier tour of Northern Ireland. And you know, and we felt sad about it, but he told us tales of there when he'd met the Irish people and had Sunday tea with them, and how he'd visited children in hospital and entertained them. And but then the awful things that happened, these same children that he entertained would be in the streets throwing stones at them, which upset him very much, and he couldn't understand why. Michael was on patrol in the Fort Road area the day he was killed, and we were told later that he'd been shot by a sniper through a hole in the wall in the house opposite, and because he was so tall, I think he was the one that got it. But you know, but they never did catch the man that did it. It was about a week later when I was able to go and see him at the funeral home, and when I saw him, I couldn't believe he was dead, because he looked just like he was asleep, like he did when he used to sleep on our sofa, and it was just like that, and I had to touch him to know that he was dead. But and then we came out and got in the car, and I just sat there and cried again. And people were coming up to see if I was all right, and my husband just asked them to go, but he brought me home, and I went and laid on the bed for a while on my own. A short time later, we held Michael's funeral, and as we got to the church, we saw so many people there. We couldn't believe how many people were showing their respects. There was young children, there was old men, there was who you knew had been soldiers at their time, and they saluted his coffin as it went by, and the police were there and they saluted as he went by. And we got into the church and it was crowded, and the outside was as well, all round the church itself. And then the soldiers took the coffin down to the altar and we had the service. We had the 21-gun salute for him, which set some children off crying. Some of them screamed in fear, but you know, and I did have a few tears again, but when I walked to his coffin, I threw 2 roses on from the rose bush that he'd bought me for my birthday a few years before, and then we went to the to a pub for his wake, and I met his commanding officer, and he told me that Michael, as he'd been promoted to sergeant, he was going to somewhere, to the School of Music somewhere, to teach the bugle and the drum, be a bugler instructor, and that he was well on the way to being the youngest drum major in the unit. Remembrance for me is going back on our lives when we were growing up, the things we did, the places we went to, and the days out we used to have, and how I used to look after him when he was a little boy, when Mum was working. I couldn't do that today, but you know, we used to play together. We used to play cowboys and Indians and pirates and thieves. We used to pretend we was robbers, and but that is remembering him, the happy times we had together. Never the bad times we had, but always the good times and the happy times. I shall never ever forget them. And when I go to his grave, I sit and talk about those things. I sit about half an hour there and I talk to him, and I can hear his voice telling me that he's remembering them too, which makes me feel sad but happy at the same time.